I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. This, my friends, was said by a scientist from the scientific revolution. Now, if you know who it is, please keep it to yourself to the end of the video. And if you don't, I'd like you to think. Who do you think it is? Now, let's begin. We are starting this lesson with the 1600s or the 17th century, whichever you choose. It does not matter. They are both the same. But more to the focal point. We are talking about the Baroque movement and the scientific revolution and how it changed the world. So, what you see here are Baroque art movements. You see the painting to your right. Up top, you see the architecture, and then down below, you see the literature. So the Baroque period began early in 1600s in Rome, Italy, and then spread to the rest of Europe. It used exaggerated motion and clear, easily interpreted detail. The detail produced drama, tension, exuberance, and grandeur in sculpture, painting, architecture, literature, dance, theater, and music. As seen in the photos before. The painting, the architecture, the literature, sculpture, music, theater, and so forth. Now, the Catholic Church had great influence on the Baroque movement because it was so popular and so successful. The Catholic Church encouraged it more by adding religious themes, as seen in the paintings to the side. The art should portray religious themes. Now, the aristocracy, such as powerful men, such as the king or nobles, viewed the dramatic style of Baroque art and architecture as a means of impressing visitors by projecting triumph, power, and control. We see Louis to our right, and he's in a powerful stance with the background being red and gold, green and blue. It projects triumph, power, and control. Now, the architecture that you are seeing here is Baroque architecture. The top right is the part of the Lees Cathedral. The bottom right is a part of the Palace of Versailles. And the one to the left is the Palatine Chapel, Palace of Caserta. Now, let's move on to the scientific revolution. It began in the 1550s till 1770s. The emergence of modern science during the early modern period, when developments in mathematics, physics, astronomy, biology, including human anatomy, and chemistry transformed the views of society about nature. Now, if you're like me, you'd wish mathematics and physics never existed. And if you're not, good for you. You like this. Anyway, back on point. This took place in Europe towards the end of the Renaissance. Now, I have a question for you. The picture down to the right. I want you to wonder, who painted that? Who did that? And it's a famous person, too. They were also scientists. Now, these people are the scientists from the scientific revolution. As I read the quote before, you're probably wondering who it was. Well, it's the first person. It was Galileo Galilei. With his studies and observations through his telescope, the successful scientist defended the heliocentric Capricornian view of the universes and refuted the Aristotelian system. Then there's Francis Bacon. His thoughts on logic and ethics in science and his ideas on the corporation and interaction of the various fields of science presented in his work Novum Organum have remained influential in the scientific world to this day. Isaac Newton, perhaps one of the most influential scientists in history, took the theories a bit further and formulated an accurate, comprehensive model of the workings of the universe based on the law of universal gravitation. William Harvey. Through dissection, Harvey was the first to demonstrate that the circulation of blood through the human body is continuous. These men's ideas and viewpoints carried on to today. This is when history changes. This is when history becomes modern. It happens with the Baroque time period, with the paintings, the architecture, the style of writing, music, theater, everything. Same with science. History changes, and it changes up for the best. Now, if we go back to this, you're probably wondering who did it, and if you know the answer, I'm proud of you. You know your stuff. It was Leonardo da Vinci. He was also a scientist. He is renowned for his fields in civil engineering, chemistry, geology, geometry, hydrodynamics, mathematics, mechanical engineering, optics, physics, pyrotechnics, and zoology. Da Vinci was one of the many scientists in the scientific revolution whose ideas formed the now modern age, as well as some other unmentioned scientists. And so our lesson comes to an end. The 17th century was best known for its Baroque cultural movement and the scientific revolution that now forms the modern age.